So, want to watch a film so bizarre it'll make your obsession with magical talking horses seem like a passing interest in football by comparison? Welcome to the world of M. Strange. M. Strange is the internet handle of San Jose-based independent filmmaker Michael Belmont, who, for the last decade and change, has been creating all sorts of experimental visual media, ranging from live-action film, stop-motion animation, 2D animation, 3D CGI, and mixed media combinations of all four. While his early work went relatively unnoticed, he began to garner some attention on the web when the trailer for his first full-length animated feature film, We Are the Strange, went viral on YouTube in 2006. It was this trailer that first caught my attention and got me invested in his work, and I've been following his career rather closely since then. Since that time, he's made a trilogy of animated films, 2 series of short films, music videos for rabbit junk and mindless self-indulgence, and is now working on becoming an independent game designer.
A platform can only take so much, until one day, one platform couldn't take it anymore. Fighting back against the players that stomped him, the bad platform was born to smash, smush, and crush the pompous players. You are the bad platform.
It's important to note that when I say M. is an independent filmmaker, I am using that term quite literally. While M.'s films do employ a few others to help with voice acting and on occasion sound design, the vast majority of the production, including music, writing, and all the visuals and animations, are done by M. himself. And having made 3 feature-length animated films and a few dozen animated shorts since 2007 is an amazing body of work, made even more impressive when you realize that they were all done on a shoestring budget, with M. not having to fall back on crowdfunding to get them done, despite that being a staple in modern independent production. Before we even get started though, I think one may need a bit of context before they delve into an M. Strange film. If the visuals layered over this introduction haven't clued you in yet, these are not your average movies, and follow a few of the traditional storytelling techniques that you're probably used to. M. focuses a lot on visual finesse and subtle subtextual narratives, so lots of things that appear to be illogical actually have vaguely implied explanations sprinkled throughout the narrative, and even then, his films tend to lead more towards raw visual spectacle and emotional reaction rather than airtight plot. M. also uses a lot of referential concepts and homages that aren't always in the public zeitgeist, referring to things like Japanese Noah masks that, had I not been glued to the man's production diaries leading up to the film's release, would have been entirely lost upon me. Essentially, an M. film doesn't hold your hand. It asks for a lot more of its viewer than simply sitting and staring at a screen, and it expects you to think. And indeed, you will have to think, and you will have to view his films more than once in order to start truly connecting the dots and understanding the story in a more concrete manner. And even then, they're always going to be, well, strange. I'm not trying to give these movies such an extensive explanation because I think they need to be defended, or that they don't hold up on their own. Anything but. I have a very strong love for all of M.'s work and think that, for what they've set out to achieve, his films are expertly crafted. However, that's my point. The goals that M. set out to achieve when creating a film largely deviate from the norm, so without having some semblance of what you're getting into, it's easy to get turned off to the whole thing within the first 5 minutes. And I'm sure that for a lot of you, even on the other side of this explanation, you will probably still end up not liking what M. produces. His films represent the epitome of niche. Depending on how well that prospect sits with you, you'll either be intrigued by M.'s work or utterly repelled. M. crafted a trilogy of animated features between 2006 and 2013, after which he decided to move on to independent game design. We Are the Strange was the first major film that M. released, and unquestionably his most well-known work, as he actually got that film accepted into the 2007 Sundance Film Festival. On the flip side, his newest release, I Am Nightmare, represents a new level of technical achievement in both his visual language and mastery of the art form. However, I want to examine the middle film in the Strange trilogy, the movie that I watched at 2 in the morning on the day it was released in the pitch black of my basement in utter silence, jaw on the floor in awe. Heartstring Marionette. This film is beautiful. And I could honestly end the review right there. Even if you have no interest in dissecting the subtle narrative quirks, cultural homages, and pop culture references littered throughout Heartstring Marionette, the film itself is a visual feast that will take multiple viewings for one to fully appreciate. M.'s greatest strength is easily his incredible design sense, being able to craft eerie, esoteric environments and delightfully twisted character designs. Perhaps it's because M. has no formal artistic training that his worlds evoke such a sense of childlike wonder, layered on top of a dark, twisted atmosphere, seemingly guided by a heavily kitsch hand. A hand that, considering the tone of the film's narrative, serves it all the better. Whatever the reason, Heartstrings visuals are in a class all of their own, with only M.'s other film entries offering anything close in terms of aesthetic peers. But while Heartstring's strongest asset is its visuals, there is a lot more to appreciate than merely the visual tour de force. Just as entrancing is the soundscape. M. teamed up with San Jose local artist Endiga to produce over a dozen haunting melodies that accompany this film's runtime, and the score runs the gamut from creepy, quiet music box tunes to swelling, distorted, synthesized orchestral string symphonies, setting the tempo for the film's climax. The pair worked very closely together to make sure that the visuals and the sound work harmoniously together, and their effort pays off. The two mediums collide and congeal into a 1-2 punch that mesmerizes and captivates from start to finish. I know it sounds like I'm just harping on here and showering the visuals with endless praise, but I mean, come on. Look at the visuals on screen right now.
I love you, but I wish you were dead. I hate you, but I wish you would acknowledge me. I just want to matter to someone or to something. I just want to be remembered. Why do I fight? So you can watch me. So you can watch me and whisper my name until the end of time as the one man who found himself through his misery, who chiseled out a face for himself in the throes of death, swinging a sword, moving his feet, walking with invisible strings. Am I not one as well? Am I not your puppet? Am I not your puppet? Answer me!
Now, you've probably noticed that I've gone almost this entire video without saying a word about the storyline or characters in this movie, and for me, that's quite the bizarre happening, and that's because the film really isn't all about the narrative. Sure, it's there, and what is there is really good, but I continually find myself so lost in the visual aspect of this movie that I find it very hard to focus on the narrative, and not really all that necessary. And coming from me, that must mean something. Combined with the fact that M. rarely falls back on traditional storytelling techniques, and it's easy to just forget that the story is there entirely. If one can pick up the pieces of their brain after it explodes from visual overstimulation, you'll find an eclectic narrative that follows a samurai mime, a stripper, and a young boy trying to take down an evil mastermind and a clown that have made a deal with the devil in exchange for a machine that grants them never-ending life and an army of monsters to command. It sounds a bit silly, but the narrative itself, again, is playing second fiddle to the visuals and audio. It's certainly serviceable, and honestly, the third act gets surprisingly emotional as strong narrative revelations take center stage with some fantastically choreographed visuals and audio coming together to leverage the moment for all it's worth. But the storytelling in Heartstring is subtle and sublime, its narrative almost requiring multiple viewings in order to put all the pieces together, context from the ending helping you refine your understanding of all that preceded it. So, if I'm all about narrative, and this movie isn't really about that, why then do I love it so much? I really don't have an answer for you, if I'm being honest. Heartstring Marionette is a film unlike anything that I usually indulge in, and in fact is the epitome of what I usually don't care for in my media. It's a film that's almost art for art's sake, but it's because the film doesn't completely transgress into that field that makes the movie so potent for me. Yes, this is certainly an art film, and yes, no one except for the main baddie is gonna get any awards for the voice acting, and yes, the female character does have obnoxiously large anime breasts. But just like the no theater that this film is influenced by, Heartstring Marionette is less about coherent storytelling and more about eliciting raw emotional responses. And when this film tries to be emotional, it commands your attention. When this film wants to be mesmerizing, it grabs you and doesn't let go. It may be an artsy film, but it's art of the highest caliber. If anything you've seen in this review looks even slightly appealing, you'll almost assuredly love Heartstring Marionette. For those looking for something different and a bit strange, I can't recommend the film enough.
Be a hero. Your time to die, fucker!